One day after the MLB trade deadline, we saw some new faces on the Red Sox roster. We also saw the Red Sox go against an old face in Christian Vázquez, but things are starting to get a little bit more positive now that we have some new faces. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider Jake Ignaszewski, here as always with my co-host, NESN's Lauren Campbell. But as I mentioned, one day after the trade deadline, a little bit weird, definitely very odd seeing Christian Vázquez in a Houston Astros uniform today, but we got to see the first looks of Tommy Pham as well as Resse McGuire, and we could be seeing Eric Hosmer in the Red Sox uniform come tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's you said in the beginning it's a little bit positive, and it's funny because kind of throwing that word around after a loss, after Brian Bayo's injury, and after
Gotta try and stay positive.
you do have to, and especially during a trade deadline where I feel like they could have done much more. I went off about this on Tuesday's episode, but Christian Vázquez in a uniform that is not the Red Sox is something that is very weird, and I don't know if it's weirder than Mookie. It might be, but it's just, you can tell how loved Vázquez was while he was here. I mean, Cora and Bogart spoke on it, and JD Martinez spoke on how highly they regarded Vázquez. Very weird, but I'm happy for him, for this opportunity for him, and there's always free agency.
There is always free agency, and he said that in his opening press conference as a Houston Astro. You know, it's a business. You never know how it's all going to happen. And, you know, in Gabby and I's episode really breaking down that trade, like, I was just super upset on how it all went down. You know, obviously it came out that Cora mentioned to him that, you know, trade was in the works. But as somebody who now works in the media, I hated seeing his reaction right in front of all the reporters and then everybody just bombarding them. Like, I understand, like, people have their jobs. They need to get their quote. Like, they need to try and get that clickbait sort of breaking news thing of Christian Vázquez's reaction. But at the same time, this is a human being that we're talking about playing for one organization for 14 years. And in a split of a second, he essentially has to make a few 20 feet steps over right across to the other dugout to where that's his new team for the next 3 months or so.
Yeah, my biggest issue with the trade, I mean, I think right now we're not going to be able to tell who won the trade until these prospects hopefully turn into something good. And I know that the Red Sox are on the road during trade deadline day, but Chaim Bloom, if you know you're trading Vázquez, if that's even a conversation, and there were conversations about potentially trading, Martinez and Eovaldi as well. But when you have Vázquez, the longest tenured person within that organization, Chaim Bloom needed to be in Texas. I mean, Dave Dombrowski, I know they're very different people, always traveled with the team. If you knew you were going somewhere, you heard it from Dave Dombrowski. So I didn't like that. That kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, it's a business. Again, maybe it made more sense for him to be in Boston, but you know that trade is coming. You know a bigger trade is coming, because I think they wanted to be sellers at the deadline and then panicked at the last minute after trading Vázquez. But I wish that Chaim Bloom could have told him in person. And it sucked seeing Vázquez so upset. He's always the one trying to hype the team up. He's the hype man. He's the energy. He's the heart and soul of that organization, along with Bogarts. But like you said, it is a business, and it's unfortunate to lose someone like Vázquez. More so like Vázquez the person than the player. And it's, like I said, it's a business. We've watched, as Red Sox fans, lose a lot of homegrown talent and a lot of fan favorites over the years. So it's unfortunate that it's nothing that we're not used to.
I completely agree. And, you know, especially with, you know, the 2018 team essentially being dismantled in front of our eyes. You know, obviously Nathan Eovaldi and JD Martinez, who were expected to probably be traded, are still with the organization. But, you know, that was one thing that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Like, Are they still trying to win it? Obviously, Chaim Bloom said that yesterday. He still believes that this team can contend and make a run for it. But if that's the case, then why are you trading away a bullpen arm and not reinforcing it with absolutely anything
Not one thing.
whatsoever? Like, not even like a Daniel Robertson just sliding there in that closer position. I mean, I understand the Josh Hader return would have had to have been massive for the Red Sox to be able to get him, sort of like what we saw the Padres had to give up. But at the same time, just something. I mean, especially what we saw the Blue Jays do. They got a guy like Anthony Bass who has under 2 ERA, and they barely even really gave up too much for him. So it's just a little bit frustrating from that standpoint. But looking at the Hosmer trade, I was a big fan of that.
I know you were.
you and I differ a little bit on it, but I mean, especially when you look at that, the Padres are paying for $44 million of his contract. The Red Sox essentially got him for free, and 2 other prospects as well, who both have the ability to steal bases as well as get on base very efficiently. I was really excited for it, even though that they had to give up a guy like Jay Groom, who we started to see look like his promising self from when they drafted him in 2016.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this trade, and it's not because of Hosmer. I think that he provides you an immediate upgrade defensively at first base, and thank you, because we never have to see Franchy Cordero, knock on wood, at first base again. He looked good for like a hot minute, and then all of a sudden we were like pulling our hair out because Franchy just couldn't, he looked lost at first. So he does provide that immediate upgrade, and it will pay dividends defensively. Offensively, we do know what he's capable of, yes, but he has 29 home runs since the start of 2020. He's shown more flashes of betterness, for lack of a better term. That's not even a term this season. So it just reminds me a lot of 2021, when you're doing the same thing. You're bringing in somebody to upgrade at first base, but you're not addressing other areas of need, the bullpen, which was a glaring issue. And as for the prospects, I had Lindsey Crosby of Locked On MLB Prospects on Tuesday's episode. And when I introduced him, he's like, I wish I had better news about these guys. And they're young. They lack a lot of power. And again, they're prospects. So who knows what they're going to turn out to be, but I'm not thrilled with this prospect return, because they're fast. That's great. That's Jarren Duran's fast. And now he's telling fans to don't come back if they go on a run. So, prospects are tricky, but it also makes me wonder, does Chaim Bloom actually know, like, does he watch these prospects play? We know he's a big prospect guy. That's his thing. But does he actually know anything about these prospects? Because one gets promoted to high A and then they struggle to hit. So we'll see. Like I said, it's not obviously Hosmer wasn't getting traded without a lot of that contract getting eaten. Good on the Red Sox for getting most, if not all, and then paying him the minimum. That's fantastic. So it's not so much the Hosmer thing, it's the prospects where I'm just like, why? What are we doing? There is no direction. And you kind of alluded to this. There's no direction of this team. And it just seems like there's a disconnect somewhere where they're saying one thing, but they're doing the other. Actions speak louder than words. What is the end goal of this team? Because Eric Hosmer does not make this team a contender when you're still going to rely on Saramora and Brazier to save you games. That is a terrifying thought.
Very terrifying. And especially when you think about what is going to happen with Bobby Delbeck and Franchy Cordero when all these injuries return. And I think we're going to see Cordero get designated for assignment, in the next few weeks.
Again.
We'll see some of these guys. Yeah, again. And he will probably go right back down to Worcester, where he's the man of the people down there, sort of like the Rusney Castillo of the Red Sox, but Franchy is for Worcester. But, really looking at sort of the things that really didn't make too much sense to me, you could also point to why wasn't Rich Hill a guy who the Sox tried to trade? And, why did they keep JD Martinez and Nathan Eovaldi? And if there's no real chance that we could see them in the playoffs this upcoming season, obviously there's still only, a few games out of that wild card spot. There still is a good possibility that they could creep their way in with that, but it's going to be the same issue if they do make the playoffs as it was last year. Just no bullpen help, no bullpen reliability. And especially when, you really look at sort of how everything stacks up with, some of these guys coming back, and if they'll even re-sign at the end of this offseason. It's just weird to me that you wouldn't have tried and attempted a little bit harder to get a better return, because you saw what was reported as they were trying to get from JD Martinez, who's like an MLB player, a top 5 prospect, and another person. You're not going to get that for a
No,
guy who's only
absolutely
a
not.
few months away from being a free agent.
Yeah, and I think you said it best. You said, I wonder why they didn't trade, JD Martinez. It's that right there. It's the asking price. And I think they were a little ambitious with Rich Hill. He's coming off that injury. He didn't pitch well Wednesday, but when you have an older pitcher who's coming off a knee injury of all things, you're not going to get much for him. And you've already got prospects that you've traded for. And JD Martinez, listen, he's done everything that he was asked to do over the length of his contract here in Boston, but asking for an MLB player and a top 5 prospect is a little silly. And again, ambitious, whatever, you got to shoot your shot, but I'm very surprised that they trade away their starting catcher, say they want to contend, but trade the starting catcher, but not really any other piece to the team. Jake Diekman, yeah, but he got rid of that contract. That was more like a salary dump kind of thing. And it's not like he was the most reliable guy. It just seems like a very disappointing and very weird deadline, because there definitely were moves there. There were moves to be made. They could have either just sold off and been like, we're going to get ready for free agency and we're going to be ready for 2023. But there's no transparency. And I think that's another thing that bothers me, is that there's no transparency about what happened at the deadline. Chaim Bloom said a lot of words, but it's just like, do you really believe that though?
Right. Especially when he mentioned that he believes Hosmer is going to be a big piece for this team for the future. We talked about it, offline, about how he does have that opt out after 2023, and there could be a possibility for that. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to the AAV that we saw him get with his original contract with the Padres. And I think the one plus side with the Hosmer move specifically is, his past relationship with Tristan Casas, and especially with how much of a mentor he's already been for Casas. When Casas is able to just slot right into that first base role, it's going to be a little bit more seamless and comfortable for him, being able to have Hosmer as a guy that he can rely on with a lot of great veteran experience. And I think that it couldn't have fit any better. I think it's just a match made in heaven. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Hosmer is really able to correlate his swing from Petco Field to Fenway Park. We saw from some tweets yesterday, he has a 363 batting average at Fenway. Hopefully that correlates, but I'm curious to see if he's able to continue his productive season.
I think it's going to work in his favor that he's going to most likely make his Red Sox debut at Kauffman Stadium, where he spent the first 7 years of his MLB career with the Royals. So maybe that will get it going on the right note, and then being able to kind of translate that to Fenway. We all know we've seen batters struggle at Fenway. We saw Trevor Story struggle at Fenway for a lot of this season before he kind of finally found his groove. And then, of course, he gets injured. But I am intrigued, and I do like the relationship between him and Casas. I think that it's going to only benefit both of them, really. But it also, bringing Hosmer in, pushes the Red Sox. They're saying, okay, now we don't have to stick with Bobby Dalbec and maybe call up Casas when he's not 100% ready. This kind of buys them more time and make sure that his ankle's right, make sure that he's 100% ready. Because if he is the future at first base, you don't rush him for any reason at all. I don't care if he stays in the minors till next season and get him 100% ready. You do whatever you have to do, and you potentially have Hosmer after this year. So, yes, it's on paper right now, it looks like it will be good. Hopefully everything translates how we are hoping it will. But I am very intrigued to see how Hosmer does in the American League after being in the National League for the last 5 years and being in a new park. He's familiar with Boston. I mean, Casey McDonald, his wife, was a big news personality here for a long time. So maybe just a familiarity will help too.
I didn't even think about that he's going to be having his Red Sox debut at Kauffman Stadium.
Yep.
What a coincidence. What a weirder time for him. But
And he hasn't played there since he left the Royals in 2017. So nice little
yeah,
homecoming for him with his new
that's
team.
I'm curious to see if he gets a standing ovation or some sort of thing like that. But that's one thing, and then we can finish up with the trade deadline talk. I really wish that Vasquez was able to get just that curtain call, just
Yeah.
standing ovation at Fenway, because the Astros aren't going to be playing the Red Sox at Fenway throughout the rest of the season. Who knows? Maybe in the playoffs, but still at the same time, I just wish that he was able to get the recognition and the thank you from Red Sox fans that he ultimately does deserve.
Yep. I think that's another disappointing thing is that, but he'll get, I mean, wherever he ends up, whether it's Boston or whether it's maybe he re-signs with the Astros, wherever he ends up, whenever he comes back to Fenway, if there was a roof, it would be blown off within seconds. He was so well loved here among the team, the fans, the media. Everyone loved Christian Vasquez, and I wish I didn't want him to be traded, but if he had to be, I wish it could have happened at Fenway.
Couldn't agree more. And sort of the theme, I guess we can call, of this episode is trying to stay positive, doing our best. We talk about mental health all the time, try to shift our perspective positively, try to spin things, even though it might not be so positive, trying to make it that way. And so we're going to keep that same feeling of hoping and praying that the Red Sox can get to October and ultimately try and fight to get a ring on their finger. But if you're looking to get a ring on your finger or any other types of fine jewelry, BlueNile.com is the number one place to get that, whether you're looking to pop the question or just find a great piece of jewelry for a milestone moment. Blue Nile has simple online tools that will help you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. And their bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring, so it is one of a kind. And they also have their jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is Blue Nile's anniversary sale, so save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured shipped free and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So, as you mentioned in the opening a little bit, not too positive today with the loss against the Houston Astros in the finale. Ended up losing 6-1, but it was nice to see some of the new faces like Tommy Pham and Resse McGuire make some very good opportunities for the Red Sox to try and come back in this game. We saw them get no hit for the first six innings. I'm going to do my best to say his last name right, because anytime we're talking about this Astros pitcher, I always get it wrong. Urquidy. I said Urquidy before. Urquidy.
I
I think
think it's
that's.
your Urquidy. I think it's your Urquidy. I should know
I'm
this,
trying.
but
I'm trying. Last time we talked about him, I had somebody message me on Twitter and say you're saying his name completely wrong. So I tried to make sure, but he only ended up allowing 2 hits over 7 innings, striking out 10. The Red Sox did have a tough time being able to make contact against him, but it was nice to see Resse McGuire blow open his no hitter today to get the first hit for the Red Sox.
yeah, I mean, this is what fans want to see. They want to see the trade deadline acquisitions do something and be productive in this lineup. So it was good. The good first 2 games. Obviously, they won. The Red Sox won the first 2 games. So, putting a positive spin on this, they won the series and beat a strong AL team. Not an AL East team, but an American League team with playoff aspirations and a team that's probably close to the favorites to going to the World Series, if not pretty close to the favorite. So I was happy to see that they were able to be productive. Hopefully they can just kind of string this together and start beating up on some teams. Trying to stay positive here, but the Astros at the end of the day are a good team. It's just unfortunate Rich Hill comes back for the first time since July, and Alex Cora was really hopeful to get 5 from him. He got 3 and a bunch of runs. I think 4 earned runs, 6 hits. It was just not Rich Hill's day, not Brian Bayo's day, not the Red Sox day, but that's why they call it a getaway day, so they can just get on the plane and go to Kansas City.
And speaking about Bayo, Cora definitely didn't expect Bayo to only be able to face 4 batters. It's pretty crazy because in those 4 batters, I think that's the best he's looked in the major leagues so far. Ended up striking out 2 batters, allowing 4 hits, but ultimately ended up getting taken out of the game. He ended up seemed like pointing to his back was the issue. Hopefully he's okay, but I honestly don't know what the Red Sox did to the baseball gods, but they have to have a curse on him or something.
Good thing they got all that pitching help at the deadline, right? Jeez, like this is so it's his left groin. It's a left groin strain, which is not ideal. Hopefully he can just get some treatment. Alex Cora said he got treatment after the game, and hopefully he'll be good to go in a couple of days. The last thing they need is another injury, another IL stint. And this, I will always go back to not getting proper bullpen help last year in the off season at this deadline, because as dominant as Brian Bayo was in Worcester, he shouldn't be in the major leagues right now. And it goes back to the freak injuries. Chris Sale's breaking his pinky in every which direction on a comebacker, a freak accident. You had Evaldi on the IL for a while, Rich Hill on the IL for a while, Josh Winkowski on the COVID IL. Like the hits just did not stop coming. So no, they didn't have these opportunities or these backup plans. And you have these guys in the majors who aren't major league ready. And now Brian Bayo's injured. So hopefully it's nothing serious. I'm bummed because he looked really good in his last start when Austin Davis was the opener. And now he looks really good in this appearance, and it lasts 4 batters. And I'm like, no, it's like you were supposed to be the bright spot here. You were supposed to be the savior because Alex Cora was hopeful to get 8 innings out of you and Rich Hill together, and not even close. So really disappointing to see. Hopefully it's just the strain. Like I said, get the treatment, foam roll, stretch a little, ice it up, and just be good to go in 5 days.
We're praying, but luckily, hopefully the Sox can get Walker back soon. Hopefully they can start to get a semi-fully healthy rotation back in there. So then, there's a little bit more confidence going into some of these games. It really is nice to have Rafael Devers back in this lineup.
Yes.
Even though he did go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, it still does give you a lot more confidence when watching these games. And I bet Alex Cora could really echo that as well. But it's also been nice to see, different guys like Christian Arroyo coming in and being able to find ways to help this team when they really need some reinforcements. But it was also interesting to see some of the Astros acquisitions as well make a little bit of an impact. We saw Trey Mancini smack a home run in the second inning. And as you mentioned, with this Astros team, you can't really get down on this Red Sox team for not being able to sweep them, get this finale. As you said, they ultimately did win the series, but it's them and the Yankees right now who are the 2 best teams in the AL, and they really got some good firepower this trade deadline. Not only with what they did with Vasquez and Mancini, but also Will Smith and some other acquisitions. But all we can really hope for is that the Sox get healthy, they find a way to get on a streak, and hopefully Chaim Bloom's words do something. Let's start a run.
Yeah, I mean, you always say in Chaim we trust. And I mean,
you try to still believe it.
You try, and I give you all the credit in the world for sticking by that, because it's tough right now, and it starts tomorrow, right? Alex Cora loves to say the season starts now, the season starts tomorrow, and let's just string together some wins, because you're not far out of the wild card spot. You're closer to getting healthier than you were a week or 2 ago. So I want to be optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm trying to just keep my head above water with this team.
It's tough, but I'm very curious to see how some of these new acquisitions can really help out when the Red Sox need it most, especially going against the Royals. Very curious to see if Nick Pivetta can have a bounce back performance. We've seen him really struggle over his past 2 starts, so it's going to be Pivetta on the bump for game 1. It's going to be TBD for game 2. I've heard he's really good, so hopefully we'll see how he can do against Zach Greinke. And then it'll be Nathan Eovaldi for game 3. So hopefully the Sox can find a way to get back over 500. They're at 500 right now, and they can start to get a run, as we mentioned. But going into our third and final segment, we're going to end it, as always, with a mental health minute. But Lauren just wants to take a second to talk to you about her favorite protein bar, Built Bar.
So if you haven't tried the Built Bar Puffs yet, you are seriously depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys, and now there's a new flavor. So it's delicious, there's cookie dough in it, and as all Built Bars are, it's covered in 100% real chocolate. It's the cookie dough chunk puff, and this might be my new favorite flavor. And of course it is because it's cookie dough. It has a light, chewy texture. There's real cookie dough chunks, which is a big weakness of mine. And like I said, 100% real chocolate, all covered in it. It's the perfect treat. It's all of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. 160 calories, 15 grams of protein. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, before your workout, after your workout, a little late night treat, or if you're just somebody who's on the go, like me and Jake, it's the perfect to just grab and go right out the door. Go to built.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
So this is something that we've been talking about ever since I joined in December, and it's crazy that, it's coming up. I want to talk about your wedding a little bit.
Yes.
It's a huge moment. It's a huge moment. And I think you're doing exactly what you're supposed to, sort of like we talked about all the time with our mental health minute, taking that time to enjoy the special moments of life. And I can't wait to see, some of the pictures, hear all about it, but talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, my wedding is Saturday. I'm so excited. I can't believe it's here. We got engaged in January 2021. So the last year and a half has just really flown by. And what's made it really special is that we got so much of our stuff done. The venue, the photographer, the DJ, all of the big stuff done in like April 2021. So we've just been cruising. It's been really nice to enjoy being engaged and preparing for maybe what's next in our lives and kind of how we want that day to go. We've packed up all of our decorations. Like everything's ready to go. My dress is right next to me. It's ready to go. Everything. And it was so important to me to stay on track and stay on schedule. And we met with our photographer last week. She actually said something to me that like lit a fire in me. And now I'm like, I don't even care what, if anything goes wrong on my wedding day. Cause she said something will go wrong. She's like, but no one's going to know except you two. So don't dwell on it because no one who's going to your wedding is going to know what happened. And I was like, I can apply this to real life because if something goes wrong, like no one's going to know except me. And it's like, oh, why is Lauren so grumpy today? It's like, oh, because I fell down the stairs. So that put a lot of things into perspective. And like I said, I just can't wait for I can't wait. I can't believe it's here. We're so excited. And it's also going to be nice to have time to just connect with one another. We both work in sports and it's tough. Our schedules are all over the place. You know that. You know what it's like to work in sports and the uncertainty. And it'll be nice to just kind of have 10 days to just be with each other, not worry about what this Red Sox team is doing, and also not worry about the Bruins. So it's going to be really nice. The weather looks promising today, probably not promising tomorrow, but there's always chance of storms and rain, but it's out of my control because it's not going to stop us from getting married and we're still going to be on the ocean. So I'm so excited. Like I said, I just can't believe it's here because I feel like we've been talking about this for months and now it's just days away.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And what do you say that like anything could go wrong? You just maybe have a flashback. It was like 2 minutes before like the ceremony started for my mom's wedding this around a year ago, and my corsage or the flower thingy that you pin on yourself ended up like not being pinned correctly, and it was like all upside down, and like my mom was trying to fix it for me, but she was like shaking so much because she was so nervous.
Oh.
And she's like, you know what, we'll just let it hang. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. But like just something as small as that, and really all you can do is just be where your feet are, just be present, because it's going to be a few days that you'll never forget. And I'm super excited to hear all about it, and very excited for you and Derek's next chapter.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you on this journey with us. You've been super
Me
supportive from the
too.
get-go, and I'm glad that you and Derek have kind of formed a friendship the
Mhm.
last few months as well. So it's all coming up us, and that's what I like to hear.
Exactly. Exactly. We gotta you've had him on the podcast before, like when I wasn't able to join, but we got to get him on when all three of us are all together,
Oh yeah.
so we can all talk about not only the Woo Sox but the Red Sox. Also, another kind of exciting announcement for people who are still listening at this end is in the next week or so, I'm going to be working for the Woo Sox for the rest of the season, helping them out with some different stuff. So I'll have my eyes a little bit more on the AAA team of the Red Sox. So you'll definitely be hearing a lot of great content from myself. And, as I mentioned, we're going to get some of the other Woo Sox employees on to give you guys as much insight about what's going on with the AAA team of the Boston Red Sox. But, as always, we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in, and, we greatly appreciate everybody as well, giving us support each and every single day, because, we look at our listeners as our family, and that's why I wanted to talk about, this big life moment for you, Lauren, because I feel like everybody else would be, who's listening, would really care about hearing about it as well. But, thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings you humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the number one daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Locked On Red Sox on Twitter. It's at LO_Red Sox, as well as myself. It's at Jake Iggy, as well as Lauren. It's at three laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll end it how we always end it. Let's go Sox.